How did people not like this in the manga? Is it different in the manga? I'm an anime only. How do you guys not like this ending? Did you see it? Like, what? I just got done watching the final episode of Attack on Titan that we will probably ever get, and it completely wraps up the story. This is the second time now that I've watched it. I watched it last night and kind of took it all in, and there's a lot of information in this episode, so I was like, okay, my mind's been blown, I'm emotional, like, things are kind of escaping me, so I thought I'd sleep on it. I woke up today, I watched it again, and this is me immediately after watching it. I've taken some notes of what I think about the episode, and kind of a rant about what goes on, what I liked, what maybe I didn't like, and the themes that are kind of overarching from the beginning of the show all the way to the end. Now, a lot was riding on this season finale for me, because a lot of things can be so good and not stick the landing. Yes, I'm looking at you, Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones used to be like my favorite show of all time. Absolutely amazing. Even season like 6 and 7, which some people didn't like and said it was kind of dropping off, and I get that. I quite enjoyed them. Season 8 ruined it for me, and now Game of Thrones isn't one of my favorite shows. Like, there's so many other things that have stuck the landing, and this is definitely one of them. I absolutely, long story short, loved this ending, and it was all kind of relieving when I'd finished it that I was so happy with it. And yeah, like I said, it's not perfect, and I'm going to get into that, but I'm just so glad that I enjoyed it and that this has kind of secured itself in the Hall of Fame for me in terms of shows, anime, and pretty much any media. And of course, it goes without saying, massive spoiler warning, we're going to talk everything about this episode. I'm not holding back, so please, if you have not seen it, go and watch it and then come back. Okay, so the episode starts immediately where the previous episode kind of left off that we got a few months ago, the 1 hour special, with them attacking Eren, who is this giant, colossal, spinal founding titan that is just marching forward with his army of colossal titans in the rumbling. And it starts with those, you know, our team. There's Levi, John, Armin, Peak, so many people, you know, and they're attacking, and things obviously aren't as easy as they seem. The Beast Titan's there in kind of like a Warhammer Titan-esque, like, white casing, throwing stuff at them, and everybody's avoiding it. They eventually do beat the Beast Titan, and then they realize Zeke isn't in this Beast Titan. It's like the Warhammer's ability to be able to put somebody somewhere else whilst taking their powers and kind of projecting a Titan instead of it being in the nape where most Titans are, you know? And at this point, people are realizing, they're like, oh god, you know, there's literally this thing that is miles long, like this huge being, and somebody's tiny body could be anywhere in this massive, massive body. It is impossible for them to find it and to do this before they either die or the rest of humanity is trampled in the rumbling. And that's when they realize, that's when Armin kind of realizes, everybody realizes, no, there's no more debating with Eren. They just have to kill him and get rid of him. And it's, you know, it's a tragic thing and everybody's upset by it, but it is a conclusion that they all come to, which I kind of liked. You know, I'm glad that there wasn't any, you know, real resistance to it, because they are supposed to be smart people. And I did like that they kind of just went, yeah, okay, yeah, we've got no choice. Like, I don't want to do it, but it makes sense. It's the only way. So I guess we're going to do it. And then it's at this point where Armin gets captured by this weird Okapi kind of cart titan variant. I think it's the cart titan, but it's not Eren controlling this. It's the founder, Ymir, who Armin sees as he's being sucked into this thing's mouth. Not to be killed or injured, just to be kept away because it fears the colossal titan's power. And obviously, if it damages Armin, then he can just transform, blow everything to hell, and that's kind of their game plan over. Meanwhile, Peak has kind of decided, well, hang on a minute, I don't really care about Eren. Eren's not my friend. I really don't. In fact, I hate the guy. So I'm just going to go and blow his neck up and then save everybody. And I really like this. This is honestly, like, they nailed the characters' kind of intentions and they kept them unique. You know, even though they're all working together, they're still their own separate characters. And that's true. You know, I never really thought about it, but Peak has no affiliation with Eren whatsoever. Like, she hates him. She's always hated him. They've always been enemies. And so she's literally like, well, yeah, screw this guy. I don't need to care. I want to save humanity. I want to save myself. I want to save my family. I want to save everybody. So let's go. And she kind of charges off with this massive thing of dynamite that's going to blow Eren's nape up. That doesn't happen. The Warhammer Titan kind of impales her with his trident, which is really cool. I thought Peak was dead in this moment. She's not. But I thought that was really cool. So she's been incapacitated. The detonator is still there. The dynamite's still wrapped around Eren's nape. And I just liked how accurate this was to Peak's character, you know? Speaking of Warhammer Titan, I forgot to mention that Ymir had summoned all of the previous kind of forms of the Nine Titans to all kind of come at once in the form of like the Warhammer's kind of spawn type thing. So there was like Grisha, there's Bertold, there's, you know, Porco, there's everybody. There's absolutely everybody that's ever been a Titan throughout history has been reincarnated under Emir's control to fight everybody else. There's literally like thousands of them, and it's kind of crazy. Everybody's not being able to hold their own. Everybody's fighting them. Levi's injured and he's holding his own, don't get me wrong, but he's struggling. I think that a full-powered Levi here would have made everything a lot easier, and I kind of get why they didn't have him to be full powered, because it kind of allowed other people to shine. It meant the stakes were higher. And even though Levi definitely held his own and was still very, very useful, you could tell that he was kind of having to hold back. His injuries were really, you know, holding him back. So everything's kind of kicking off. Bertold kind of eats Reiner's head and then throws Reiner down, and this like makes a big explosion. People all fall off, like Eren's skeleton. So, you know, Connie's kind of knocked out, Levi's injured and coughing up blood. Reiner thankfully didn't die. He escaped the Titan form, and so John is like holding him up, and they're kind of talking. That was an emotional scene, talking about how the Scout Regiment never gives up, and they kind of got this camaraderie still, even though they were enemies for a long time. I really like this scene. I feel like the brotherhood and stuff like that, and people coming together. And I kind of got a soft spot for Reiner. There was a period where I hated him so much when you realize what he is and what he's done, and I kind of just wanted to get rid of him. But he's really grown on me, and he's really emotional, and I kind of feel sorry for him. And so for these people to accept him again when he was at a point of his most lonely and most depressed, I think was such a, I don't know, it filled my heart, you know? So now everybody's in a very vulnerable position. They're all hanging off. A lot of people's ODM gear doesn't work anymore. They can't escape, and they're being surrounded by these previous iterations of the Titans. So what happens next? So Falco swings in. Falco, who previously should not have been there because he went with the, I think they're called the Amazabito or something. I probably butchered that. But he has a new Titan form, and it's a big bird, like a giant bird. And I love the design of this so much. First time I've ever seen it. And he flies in and kind of saves everybody narrowly. The only reason why they survived was because of Falco coming in at that point. And on Falco is, of course, Annie, who has returned, Gabby, who is also there. Yes, I know, people don't like Gabby, and I completely understand why. I used to hate her so much. She's kind of grown on me again. Kind of like, I don't find her as annoying as she once was, and I'm glad the focus was kind of taken off of her a little bit. So I don't know, I was happy to see her. She also had this massive, like, sniper rifle, you know, the same one that she used to blast Eren's head off way back when he became the Founding Titan. So, yeah, maybe she'll be useful. I don't know, we'll get into that. Now, whilst all that is happening, Armin is realised that he might be dead. He's stuck inside this thing's mouth, and he's trapped, and he doesn't know whether he's, you know, alive, dead. He doesn't know where he is. He can see his own body, and he's kind of upset. You know, he's upset that he let himself, you know, go out like this, and that things kind of turned out the way that they did, and he's angry, and he's saying that he hates himself and everything. And then eventually he realizes that he's in fact not dead at all. He's in the paths. He didn't realize he was in the paths, where time doesn't really exist. It doesn't move like we know time to move. It's instantaneous whilst also being infinite. It's a really weird concept, and it kind of helps you understand how mind-boggling it is at the time. And when he realizes that he can sense what is going on, even though he's stuck inside something's mouth, because all of the Eldians are connected via the path. So he knows and understands what people are going through. And he's like, okay, we can do something with this. It's at that point where he realizes that Zeke is there building his little sandcastles, which, by the way, I miss Zeke so much. You know, I absolutely love Zeke's character. I love the Beast Titan. I've always liked him, even though I've always hated him. I've always liked his character so much, and I was just glad to see him again after so long without seeing his character. You know, we've waited a long time, and it was really cool. So they kind of talk, and this is one of my favorite points in the episode, because they're kind of talking about kind of the meaning of life and what it is to be alive, and kind of what drives people and stuff. And Zeke's kind of giving him Armin this whole speech about what life is, and it's just to procreate and reproduce, and that's kind of the point. So it's like So what is the point, you know? Because he still believes that Eldians should, you know, have their ability to reproduce taken away to avoid this conflict. And Armin helps him realize that life isn't about that, and that it's about the smaller things, you know, like him running up the hill chasing Mikasa and Eren, or Zeke playing catch with Mr. Cassava. I think that's how you say his name. And it's those moments where Zeke's eyes are kind of awakened, and he's like, yeah, no, there is more. It's like he's done all of this, everything that's gone through life, the idea to love, to hate, for purpose, and he's would have just been happy for the rest of his life playing catch and being stuck in that moment forever. And that's kind of when he realizes that he's got to do something, you know? They kind of stand up and they realize and see all of the previous Eldians that were important in their lives kind of stood behind them, including Mr. Cassava, including Grisha, including various iterations of the Titans. I think Porco's there. There's a couple of other people, and I really love this scene. It kind of made it very nostalgic and heartwarming, and it was just really nice to see Zeke kind of awaken, and he thanks his dad, Grisha, he thanks Mr. Cassava, and that's when they realize that they can do something more. And so, in the actual world, there are the Titans that are the ones that they knew personally, are now resisting Amir's will and are fighting against the other iterations of the Titans. So Grisha's fighting, Bertold is now on their side, everybody's kind of coming together, and they're all realizing that they've saved the people that are still alive. And it's a really good moment. I love it so much. Armin explains that him and Zeke were able to ask for their help, and it kind of worked. And I don't know, I thought this was a really beautiful moment. I really do. Oh, and I'm getting ahead of myself because this is just before or just after Gabby uses a giant sniper rifle to pierce the okapi that was keeping Armin kind of held, which is the only useful thing that she does, and I love it. That's fine. I'm glad that that was in there, which allowed Mikasa to free Armin, and that's how he explains and yada, yada, yada. Meanwhile, Zeke has realized, okay, this is it, it's game over. He kind of comes out of the spine where he's being held, now that he's able to do that, and he's looking at Levi, who's swinging around on this bird, who's extremely injured, and he's like saying, hey, Levi, come on, dude, come on, you know, like kind of egging him on to kill him. And I don't know, I really like this as well, because it kind of accepted Zeke, like, has never looked happier in the last, like, God knows how long. He was so happy. He was admiring the weather. He was saying that he doesn't really deserve that because of all the bad things that he's done. But I don't know. I just thought it was a really beautiful way for him to go out. And Levi shoots down at light speed, severing his head, killing Zeke instantly, and essentially stopping the rumbling. All the Colossal Titans halt in their place. Which is really lucky, because from the people and humanity's perspective, they were all being shoved off these cliffs as the rumbling was coming forward. And this was a beautiful scene, one of my favourite scenes in anything, where it's all in black and white, other than a baby and a woman. Now, the woman gets shoved off the cliff, and as she does, she passes the baby forward, and somebody grabs the baby, and all these people who are being slowly shoved away, some are being trampled, the others are being forced off a cliff, are forcing this baby along to try and keep it away from falling off the cliff, away from being stamped on. And it's that kind of raw hope in humanity that even though everything looks like it's going to be ruined and everybody's doomed, and no matter what, life finds a way. And I think that's so poignant and so beautiful. Life finds a way, and determination in the human spirit finds a way no matter what. People will be determined until the last moment. And I can't get over how much, like, that's so cool, you know? So yeah, getting into the final kind of aspects of this fight, all that happens, and then Jean finally manages to reach the detonator, they blow up Eren's neck, Eren's head is severed, falls to the ground, that's it, his giant titan form is kind of like faltering, and then they get everybody away, and then Armin, of course, nukes everything as the Colossal Titan completely destroys Eren's form. All the bones are blasted away, completely just gone. Completely gone. And just before the nuke happens, this kind of parasite that is, I don't know what it's called, there's probably a name for it, but the parasite that was the reason for the founding Titan in the first place, way back 2,000 years ago with the founder Ymir, when it grabs her underneath the tree, that appears and it's huge and it shoots out of Eren's body and tries to reconnect. At this point, Reiner grabs it and is struggling against this thing to stop it getting back to Eren's head, to, you know, to reconnect it and potentially start the rumbling again. I don't know how that would work because there's no royal blood anymore unless he got Historia somehow, but that's unlikely. So yeah, but this was really cool. And then, you know, Armin does the whole nuke thing. Reiner tanks it like a champ, and it doesn't kill the parasite, but it definitely blasts away Eren's physical form. If that wasn't enough, Armin kind of comes out. Reiner's still wrestling with this worm parasite thing that's now releasing gas, and it's struggling to, you know, it wants to survive. It's trying to cause issues, and it's at that point where Eren also transforms again. There's a giant light and he becomes his own colossal titan, and this is one of the coolest moments in the entire episode for me. It was so cold, it was so cool. Seeing him just walk, and the new form looks amazing, the backdrop looks amazing, everything about this was so cool to me, and he just marches forward, and he's just, like I said, keep moving forward. That's all his objective is. He just wants to keep moving forward. And Armin obviously opposes this, and those two get into a scuffle, you know, they get into a fight. So whilst that's happening, other stuff's going down. So whilst Reiner, Annie, and Peak are fighting this parasite thing, there's Mikasa and Levi on Falco who are about to dive down towards Eren in hopes that they kill him, and Levi says to Mikasa, look, this is it. We're the only ones that can do this now. Everybody's got their roles. This is our job. Our job is to clear the path and to kill Eren now, and this is it. And Mikasa is obviously distraught and doesn't know what she wants to do, and that is when she's pulled into her own head and has kind of like a flash forward alternate timeline kind of scene. Now this scene is really important. It shows Eren with his short hair, it shows Mikasa, they're at a log cabin in the middle of a beautiful backdrop, a beautiful forest in the middle of nowhere practically, and this whole sequence was supposed to be what would have happened if Mikasa would have just confessed her feelings for Eren on the top of the hill next to the refugee camp way back when they first went to Mali. And I can't believe how things could have been different had that been the case. You know, some people can say, well, it would have never been different because it was always determined to be that way. But the fact that it could have been breaks my heart. It really breaks my heart, but that's totally okay. You know, it is what it is. I love this. I love this whole thing. Eren has told Mikasa to abandon the scarf when he passes because he doesn't want her to kind of hold on to the idea of him forever once he dies, you know, whether from natural causes because people don't live as long with the Titans or because somebody kills him, then yeah, he doesn't want her to be holding on. And then she's pulled out of that scene and she says no. She tightens the scarf, she puts the scarf around, tightens it, and she says no, she refuses. She's not going to promise that. As she breaks down, she goes, you know, Armin and Eren are still going at it, punching each other, which is a really cool fight. Levi clears a path for Mikasa, who gets into Eren's mouth and severs Eren's head in one of the cleanest cuts you've ever seen. Straight across the neck, his hair sliced, that slice. Eren looks at peace with this, you know, he looks peaceful, and there's no resistance. In fact, Eren was the one that told Mikasa that you can find him in his mouth. So, yeah, I don't know, I thought this was really sad, of course, but the next bit is where it gets really interesting. So at this point, it kind of goes back to the other timeline memory that Mikasa has with Eren, who is now asleep or dead on a bench, and she kind of kisses him. It kind of turns out that she's just kissing Eren's severed head, which is a bit weird, but, you know, love makes us do weird things, so I'll give her a pass for that. That's okay. She wanted to shoot a shot, and whatever. Still weird, but I let it go. I let it go. She turns around and finds Ymir there, smiling, and with a rare shot of Ymir's eyes actually being full. We almost always see Ymir with, like, dead eyes, with no iris, nothing like that. We've only seen her with a full eye, like, twice, maybe, in the whole show, which is very interesting. It's obviously symbolic. And it turns out that Ymir wanted Mikasa to kill Eren because Mikasa was almost like a symbol of this unfaltering love that Ymir had for King Fritz, which was what kept her as a slave. This love was, she was a slave to it, you know, and that's kind of how everything happened. And Mikasa was one of the people that could break this cycle. And I think Ymir wanted that connection. And so yeah, Amir was there and seemed happy with this result. And then fast forward back to Armin. Armin and Eren are both, the Titan forms have disappeared. And Armin wakes up kind of as a kid again. And he's talking to Eren, Eren is also a kid. And they're talking about the whole events of what's happening. They're talking about the time where Eren beat up Armin to try and push them away, and Eren's apologizing for it. And this is the first time in a long time we've seen Eren being his old self, his true, genuine self, not this cold, kind of calculated killer, genocidal maniac, this actual guy that we've seen in the first 3 seasons. And so they're kind of going through it, and Eren's kind of trying to talk with Armin and let him know what's going on, and Armin's listening and is kind of taking it on board, and, is saying that he should apologize to Mikasa. Armin doesn't seem too bothered by all this, which is an interesting take, except for when Eren tells him he sacrificed 80% of humanity. Eren killed 80% of humanity with the rumbling, which is billions upon billions of people, and Armin loses it, absolutely loses it, obviously, and kind of blames him for it, to which Eren kind of replies, look, the Founding Titan's power makes time not real. So it kind of explains that everything happens all at once, whilst also there being a past and a future. Everything's simultaneous, but also not at all. And his head is messed up. He's just a guy. He's got memories from everybody. He's found it. He taps into everything. Time isn't even real for him, and he's experienced the same things an unlimited amount of times, to which he can't find a different solution than what he does. He can't direct it in a different way. What happens always happens. And he breaks down about this. He's not happy about it, to the point where, and this is the big reveal, he says that he even directs the Titan that kills his own mother to his mother so that it didn't kill Bertold, because that needed to happen for this result. So the entire reason that Eren has a villain arc, that Eren has any motivations for the entire show, the entire reason was that he caused it. He caused his own villain arc without knowing he caused it, because it needed to happen for the result that he wanted. That's mind-blowing to me. That is so mind-blowing. It was so... The way that the anime does it, I don't know in the manga, but the way the anime does it is, it kind of just says it really quickly, and then, moves on. And I was like, what? Whoa! I was like, whoa, this is crazy. And I don't know, I thought this was such a cool thing. This was a great kind of reveal. I don't know. I thought it was cool. Now, this is where things get interesting, because I've seen people online complain about this since watching it last night, but there's one point where Armin kind of talks about the fact that Mikasa shouldn't be held up on Eren, and that she should move on, and when she lives her life, she should be with somebody else. And at this point, Eren breaks down. He gets super emotional, and he says he doesn't want Mikasa to know, but he breaks down and says that he wants her to be in love with him for the rest of his life, and she also wants her to pine over him for the next 10 years. Which is obviously extremely selfish, but people complained about this and said it's not like Eren. And I'm like, how is this not like Eren? Do you guys remember what Eren was like in the first 3 seasons? That guy was the most whiny, pathetic guy ever. And also, even if he wasn't the most whiny, pathetic guy ever, you would be pathetic about wanting somebody that you love to love you if you had experienced the tragedy that Eren has experienced countless times whilst his head's being mashed by various timelines of this happening, whilst he has to kill his own mother and has to potentially sacrifice his friends whilst killing 80% of humanity. I think a little breakdown is kind of justified, you know what I mean? And yeah, that's when the whole, 80% of humanity thing's revealed. Armin goes crazy. The sea that they're all kind of sat in turns, which is beautiful, by the way. The cinematography of this is insane. It all turns red with blood, and Eren kind of has teeth and hair in his hands, and it's kind of symbolic of this death that is, and this destruction that is wrought upon the world. Whereas Armin is at first kind of thinking that they want to find some common ground, because he just can't understand that that's the way that it's gone, and that's the reason why Eren did things. And then he realizes, he picks up the shell, the same shell they find when they find the sea at the end of season 3. And and they realize that Armin is just as much to blame in his own head, because he's the one that filled Eren's head with these ideas of a free world, of freedom, of this idea that things can be better if people aren't shackled, and that was just, and so Armin finds this relatability that he was searching for with Eren and decides to shoulder the blame with him. In which case, they decide they're both going to meet together in hell. They share a hug. It's really emotional. It's one of my favorite scenes in anything. I thought it was a really, really, really good scene. So after this is over, Armin wakes up. He's kind of looking at the sky. He's like, oh my god, what's going on? He sees Mikasa, who's holding Eren's head, and bursts out. He breaks down. It breaks down. And then it's revealed that every single person that Eren had a relationship with, he was giving those guys messages and talking to them like that conversation with Armin way before they even made contact with him. And then he was kind of erasing their memories so that they wouldn't have a clue it was happening until after he died. So that Eren could be this martyr, and the whole purpose of it was to unite humanity against a sole enemy. And then the Eldians, like Armin and Mikasa, would be heralded as heroes and prophets and the people that saved humanity by killing Eren, and therefore would stop the conflict between humanity, because those guys would be, heroes. They'd be saved. And this is revealed that everybody's kind of had this same thing, which is really, really... this scene actually is the one that made me cry. The idea that Eren had done all that and how tragic it was, as well as everybody remembering, like Armin, Mikasa, Jean, Levi was seeing all his dead comrades and stuff like that. Jean and Connie saw Sasha. It was just this whole thing, and it was a lot, dude. And then Reiner with his mum tells him that it was good enough even without the abilities of the Titan. Which Reiner starts crying, I'm crying, dude. Everybody's crying. Do you know what I mean? It was kind of a crazy, crazy time, and I love this moment. It was very wholesome. Now, I know this has been very ranty, so I'll just kind of try and wrap up as fast as I can, but it's kind of revealed that, Mikasa wants to go and bury Eren and give him a proper burial, so she sneaks off with his head and goes back to Paradis Island apparently to bury him next to the tree where he falls asleep and wakes up at the first ever episode of the show, which is really poetic, I think. And Armin takes the kind of the credit for killing Eren and, hopefully calms people down because there's still some tensions. It's then revealed that no matter what, even after Eren had done this and all this had gone down, that Paradis Island had kind of made more of a military on the Jaegerists to kind of, they were so scared of retaliation because of what Eren did. They formed a military and they held Eren in this high regard like he was some kind of god and stuff like that they all have to look up to. So conflict is still there, there is still the threat of violence and conflict. And this is it's not a problem with the story, but it's more like it's almost, I want to say, unsatisfying slightly, but I know why they did it. And it's the fact that Eren didn't really achieve everything he wanted to achieve with his sacrifice. And don't get me wrong, he achieved the safety of his friends. His friends were heralded as heroes who, again, stopped the rumbling and stuff like that, which was his main goal. But I thought that it would at least stop conflict for a while, for whilst people recovered. But it seemed like as soon as it ended, they were like, nope, more like Jaegerists, military, let's all do this. And I don't know, it just felt it felt slightly unsatisfying that happened in that way. But, as I'll get into right now, it kind of makes sense, because a lot of the themes of this story, I think the main themes for Attack on Titan is freedom, tragedy, love, and hate. And a lot of that kind of is encompassed in human nature. And the point of it is that no matter what, human nature will always be human nature. We can't get out of it. No matter what happens, Eren was caused conflict because of what Reiner and Bertold did. That was the start of his story. They did that because of what Marley had done, and because they were told that they needed to, and that these island devils. It's a cycle. It never ends. It never, ever ends. And it kind of makes sense that would be the reason, And also, Eren kind of never professed to be the guy that knows everything. He even says to Armin that he's just an idiot that happened to get power, So it didn't work. But yeah, he can't know everything. He could see his own future. He could try his best. He had what you know, what the abilities that he had and the knowledge that he had, he thought that was the best idea. But that doesn't mean it's guaranteed to work, you know? Like I said, he's an idiot that got power and managed to do what he had to do. And the fact that it didn't work, well, it just happens. That's his life. And I kind of respect that realism. So then it fast forwards to Peak, Jean, Connie, Annie, Armin, all those guys kind of on a boat going back to Paradis Island as peace ambassadors for Mali, or the remains of Mali, to try and get everybody to calm down and to tell the story. And they're a bit scared because, you know, they're the guys that killed Eren, who Paradis Island now holds in high regard, very high regard. Thankfully, they kind of talk about the fact that they've not been shot down yet in their boat, so they might be okay, which is, you know, great to know. And we know they're okay because the post-credit scene. But I just thought this was a really, really good kind of ending for those guys, as that's all they really wanted was peace. And the fact that they're doing it for the other side now as well, they're not taking sides, they're doing it for their own selves. And the fact that these guys were enemies and how they've come together, I think is one of the most poignant things ever, because it shows what you can do. And that's what I think interests people, is the fact that, hang on a minute, Paradis Island and Mali both knows that Reiner was like mortal enemies with Eren, Armin, Mikasa, all those guys. Whereas now they're both together under peace talks, which is very, you know, could be very effective. All the meanwhile, Mikasa is back on Paradis Island and she's there. She's buried Eren. She's staying next to the tree. She's still wearing the scarf. And she's upset and she's sad and she's not letting go at all, but she seems to be somewhat happy. And that's when a bird comes and wraps the scarf around Mikasa's neck a bit more. And this is kind of symbolic that Eren is now free. Birds have been associated with freedom throughout this show, so very interesting. That's what I kind of took it as. That's my interpretation, that Eren's now free of his burden, of his curse. And Mikasa thanks Eren, and that is where the episode ends. It does show in post-credit scenes that people visit Eren's grave, such as Armin, Jean, all that stuff. Mikasa has a kid, and Mikasa dies eventually of old age with her scarf still on, and it's very sad, but I was very happy that she lived a long life. But yeah, and then it continues to kind of show that civilization keeps building and growing and growing and growing, like it has with us, and being destroyed by war. You know, you 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And I don't know, I just thought it was super real. I really did. I thought it was super real. I don't know why people expected a super happy ending or a tragic ending, I guess, because it was just a realistic ending in a show about giant monsters and titans and crazy powers and weird parasites. It was such a realistic show in terms of its politics, in terms of its kind of like agendas, its storytelling. Nothing ever felt like, oh yeah, well, that's a cliche. Like, it just happens as it would happen. And sometimes things don't go the way that you want. Things, you know, there's nothing in the universe that's making a good story. It just is what it is. And yeah, that's kind of how it ends. And overall, guys, I've got to say, this was a really satisfying end. Again, there was one unsatisfying part with it that is the only problem that I've got with it, and that is the fact that I kind of wanted Eren's... you know, it would have been different if Eren's effects of his thing would have, like the whole rumbling, would have stopped any kind of conflict for 50 years or something. I'd have been like, okay, that's cool. That's really cool. That gives his friends a chance to live out their lives and stuff like that. But it kind of makes out as if the day after the rumbling happens, the Jaegerists are up in arms again. And I'm like, God, we couldn't have had like just a little period of time. You know, Mali and the rest of the world has been crushed. Like, they're not doing anything for a long time, you know. Paradis has been absolutely crushed as well. They're not doing anything for a long time. I don't know how much time has passed between that, because it did look like there was a passing of time. But yeah, that's the only problem that I had with it. Other than that, it was absolutely beautiful. The music was amazing. The cinematography was amazing. The characters were fulfilled. There was a lot of plot points that were kind of tied up. Amir was fulfilling that whole storyline, which I really liked. It was great. It was great. I loved everything. I'm glad that they didn't kill off every single character like I thought they would. And I just thought it was amazing. And I think that Eren, even though he is a monster for what he did, the reasons why he did it were kind of like, I don't want to say understandable, but you can see his thought process. He's not just a crazy dude. He was there looking out for his friends and looking out for most of the people that he knew by doing something terrible, and he had to shoulder that burden all by himself, and he's a tragic hero in that regard. Depends on you. That's another thing. That's kind of about the perspective, because he's a hero to his friends, and to maybe parody Ireland and stuff like that, of course. But he's also a villain because he's a genocidal maniac, and, you know, that can't be abided by. So it's all perspective as well, which I feel like it highlighted very, you know, effectively, these different perspectives and how, you know, Marley can be good in some views and Paradis can be bad in some views, even though in the earlier seasons it was always Paradis good, Titans bad, Marley bad, and then it kind of grew to be this equal exchange, which is something that I think is masterful. So yeah, guys, this has been long, this has been very ranty. I know I've not really had a script, I've just kind of gone off and decided that I'm going to do it. I love this episode. I think Attack on Titan is probably my favorite show of all time. It's definitely my favorite anime of all time as of right now. Now that it's stuck the ending, it's definitely my favorite anime of all time. I absolutely loved it. So, guys, let me know. What did you think? Let me know in the comments. Did I get anything wrong? Did I get anything right? Do you agree with what I thought? Do you not agree? Let's talk about it, because I could talk about this all day. So please, guys, if you're not subscribed, make sure you subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, drop a like, leave a comment, and I will see you all in the next one. Thank you.